While a family is on vacation on their yacht, a terrible storm brings the ocean onto the land, revealing the dangers of the deep sea. That's why today, Terviv, if you enjoy the videos, support the channel by liking, subscribing, and enabling notifications. It's free, and it really helps me keep growing. Now let's get started. The story begins with a message about planet Earth, which since its formation has experienced 5 mass extinctions, and announces that the 6th extinction is just beginning. We quickly move to the Caribbean Sea, where a yacht is in the middle of the vast ocean. On board is a family, parents Tom and Julia, and their children Casey and Ben. Everyone is busy with different things. The mother goes for a swim to enjoy the sea's peace as her husband and son fish. Suddenly, the woman senses danger and panics as she unsuccessfully tries to return to the yacht. Fortunately, Tom realizes in time to ask his children for help and quickly rescues his wife. Minutes later, Julia struggles to explain what happened. Tom then expresses his anger to her. Swimmers should always tell others when they're entering the water so they can watch out for you. And everyone ends up accepting this new rule. That same night, it's time to celebrate because today is Ben's birthday. And this is the reason why they're out sailing. Together, they cut the cake and give him a laptop, which makes him really happy. The extra detail is a bracelet his mother calls an amulet to ward off evil spirits. Afterwards, they get ready to take some photos to immortalize this moment and continue the night. Suddenly, Casey's boyfriend makes a video call, so the girl decides to go to the bow to have some privacy. While they're talking, we can see that a terrible storm is forming behind him, and it looks really intense. Due to the weather problems, the video call starts to break up until the communication is completely lost. The girl becomes scared and quickly runs to tell her parents, but they suddenly hear a strange noise in the air. So they go outside to try to find out what's happening and are completely surprised. They're enormous whale carcasses that are surfacing in an incredible way. Tom explains to his family that sometimes these animals get disoriented because of storms, and this can cause their death. A few minutes later, they feel sudden movements, so Tom goes into the water to investigate, even though he could run into anything. Everyone waits anxiously until the man resurfaces after a while with an arm wound. That's why his wife stitches his wound, as he explains the yacht's shafts are bent. It's likely due to impacts from one or more live whales. The problem is that under these conditions, it's unlikely they'll be able to set sail. His son asks if a shark caused the attack, but he didn't see the animal. He only knows it was a very large creature. He's starting to worry because he doesn't know what's happening outside. A few minutes later, Casey tries to get a signal on his phone without much success. The worst part is that the yacht's radio also doesn't have access to the network. Later, Tom's concern leads him to count the supplies, since there's only enough water for 4 days. The good thing is that they're located on a shipping route, so there's a chance that another vessel will find them very soon. Right then, they start hearing new strange sounds. They quickly go outside, and that way they can see that a meteor shower is approaching from the sky. As if that weren't enough, the impacts move increasingly closer to them. So Tom decides to take the risk and start the engine, even though this could be very dangerous for everyone. They move forward to dodge one impact, but the boat's engine is destroyed, leaving them stranded. The family quickly takes shelter inside the yacht, closing windows and trying to protect themselves. But within seconds, the waves violently toss them. They immediately look for life jackets. But because of all this, Julia starts to get a nosebleed and Casey feels like vomiting. Chaos erupts when an intense buzzing sound stuns them. The windows shatter and Tom goes outside with a flare looking for help, but it's not enough. At dawn, everyone wakes up in the lowest part of the yacht, surprised to be alive. They quickly go outside, find dead fish nearby, and realize they're in the middle of what appears to be a vast desert. They are actually on a massive rock that was once underwater as the sea has mysteriously vanished. Now they're touching what was once the ocean floor. Casey keeps trying to get cell phone signal but has no success. He walks around and Tom finds the compass is correctly pointing north. What happens is that the Earth's poles have shifted. This means that the sea has moved to where the land used to be, and probably everyone in the world is dead. When she hears this, Casey panics because she probably won't see her boyfriend again. Julia follows her to calm her, but the girl just wants to be alone. The woman decides to organize her remaining supplies. Her youngest son releases balloons into the sky, hoping to attract other survivors. Hours later, Tom contacts a man on a submarine. He turns out to be the captain of a mission that was in deep waters when the catastrophe happened, so he couldn't communicate with his headquarters. Since then, the communication networks have been down, so waiting for help that way is pointless. The captain estimates the sea will return to its usual place in one siendo, a totally devastating scenario for those who are still alive. That's why he recommends finding land that's high enough to take shelter there. Tom asks the captain to rescue his children, but the captain refuses, saying the submarine is too small. After a while, Tom convinces him to give the kids space. He gets their location coordinates to take them there, and the next morning the family prepares for their new journey. Before leaving, Tom has breakfast on deck, when suddenly a dog comes near, and without hesitation he approaches it to offer some water. Meanwhile, Julia goes out to watch and witnesses what happens next. The husband approaches the stranger to tell him that he can help him. He offers his water bottle, and the man drinks desperately, but then starts beating him savagely. The woman rushes to stop the beating, but freezes when the stranger stabs Tom in the chest with an improvised spear, who sadly dies at that moment. When the traveler approaches, Julia runs away. The stranger wounds her shoulder with a spear but fails to stop her. The woman falls into the yacht, trying to get Casey's attention, who runs to help her. They close the yacht's doors and windows to stay safe. Julia hides the kids under a sofa and gives her eldest daughter a loaded flare gun, with the condition that she only use it when necessary. Then she runs to get a kitchen knife and locks herself in the bathroom to try to treat her wound. At that moment, the unknown man enters the yacht and frantically eats the canned food he finds. He searches the area for his victims at the same time. Julia prepares to confront him, but when the man enters the bathroom, he sees the woman is gone. The problem is the dog barks desperately when she leaves, so the woman has to kill him. The bad thing is that when the stranger sees his pet's corpse, he starts to get furious. The woman quietly gets back on the yacht. This is not enough to fool the traveler, who quickly finds her, grabs her by force, and hits her with the intention of killing her. He watches the terrifying scene from his hiding place. Seeing his mother being strangled, he decides it's the perfect time to use the loaded flare. This brings down the stranger, but also starts a fire on the yacht. Quickly, Julia runs to get some supplies and hits the man to try to neutralize him again. She comes out to find her children crying over her husband's body. Now isn't the time for grief, as the traveler survived the boat, and that's why he pushes on. After a few hours, they hide between two large rocks where a small stream of salty, undrinkable water flows. At that moment, Casey asks if maybe the killer traveler found them because of the balloons his brother hung up, making him feel guilty. But Julia tries to convince him not to think about it, because he never had bad intentions. They immediately decide to move on, without realizing that the stranger is behind them. And it's only a matter of time before he catches up to them. Unfortunately, this happens a little later, while Ben gets distracted Trey with a dead hammerhead shark. The mother and her two children run desperately through the rocky desert, surrounded by pollution and at risk of being exposed to toxins dangerous to humans. But in this way, they manage to get far enough away from the man who is chasing them, although this stranger is willing to do anything to catch them. After walking for a while longer, Julia realizes that her son is dehydrated. Making things worse, she finds her daughter left the water bottle open. This causes them to run out of the vital liquid and sparks a heated argument between the two. On top of the annoyance, everyone keeps moving forward until they find an old plane that likely crashed and sank in the ocean long ago. Fortunately, he manages to get inside to stay safe. While they rest that night, Julia looks at the last photo they took as a family, and she remembers the moment she met Tom, narrating their incredible love story, and mourns his loss again. That night, Casey wakes up to strange noises outside and goes to investigate. While he's peeing, he starts to feel like someone got scared, and it turns out to be none other than the unknown traveler who's about to attack him. Julia arrives at the perfect moment and repeatedly stabs him, in revenge for killing her husband and with enough fury to protect her children. At dawn, the three resumed their journey and found the stranger's body brutally mutilated, which means that in the desert of the deep sea, something more dangerous than humans themselves is hiding. Ben eventually moves on without his family and runs to a spot with still closed water. He doesn't hesitate to drink to quench his thirst, but this causes him to instantly start feeling sick. Julia and Casey carry him to a place full of plastic chairs, building an improvised shelter to rest from the sun. Hours go by there until the woman wakes up thanks to new unknown noises. She immediately goes outside to see what's happening, and that's when they discover that there are mysterious creatures in this place that threaten to attack them. He quickly wakes up the kids so they can escape together. They arrive at a place with an old boy, an abandoned boat, and people picking up trash. One of the strangers tries to help them, but her two companions stop her and they hide in a big container, leaving them outside. Then we see that the threat is actually large wild crabs, which seem to be really dangerous. The kids climb the container, but when Julia tries, she gets bitten on the leg, causing a severe wound. Seconds later, she starts to feel really bad. They make an improvised tourniquet, and she quickly passes out. She wakes up to daylight, goes in alone, desperately searching for her children, and finds some dead people. Thanks to the savage crabs from a few hours ago, at that moment, a kind of sandstorm happens. Fortunately, the woman reunites with the kids who had gone to find food and supplies. In this way, she manages to cauterize her wound and quench her thirst to keep going. Among the things they found, there's also a radio. Julia manages to find a way to establish contact again with the captain of the submarine. He tells her he was also attacked by wild animals and warns they've probably returned because the sea is about to return to its place. The woman insists that he help her save her children, but she doesn't know how to give him her location. That's why the captain fires a flare, which the family sees. As they approach, they spot the submarine in the distance. But when they arrive, there's a huge crack. This means they have to cross a canyon of rocks where there are toxic wastes that were stored in the depths of the ocean. As if that weren't enough, they get trapped because of a rock slide. Julia feels responsible for the kids, so she asks them to keep going, even though Casey disagrees. When they reach the submarine, the kids discover that the captain is badly injured. He admits that he has little chance of surviving. So Casey decides to run back to look for his mother, who is fighting to defend herself from the new beasts approaching her. Luckily, the girl reaches out and rescues her mother just in time. Both run back to the submarine and see the captain being devoured by crabs, unable to help or search for him. A huge wave suddenly appears from the ocean depths, prompting the family to take shelter in the submarine. The powerful water moves them. She and Julia recall all they've been through recently. Hours later, the movement finally stops and the family decides to go outside. The ocean current has carried them to the edge of a ruined city that was destroyed by the flood. But they are happy to be back on solid ground. This was Survive. Don't forget to like, comment about which other movie, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos.